Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.6, Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 6. Vedan yugante tamasatiraskritan rasataladyo nirturanga vigraha pratyadadevai kavaye bhiyachate tasmai namaste vitathe hitaya iti. Vedan, the four Vedas, Yuga Ante, at the end of the millennium, Tamasa, by the demon of ignorance personified, Tiraskritan, stolen away, Rasatalat, from the lowest planetary system, Rasatala, Yah, who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nirturanga Vigraha, assuming the form of half horse, half man, Pratyadade, returned, Vai, indeed, Kavaye, to the Supreme Poet, Lord Brahma, Abhiyachate, when he asked for them, Tasmai, unto him, the form of Hayagrīva, Namaha, my respectful obeisances, Te, to you, Avitatha ihitaya, whose resolution never fails, Iti, thus. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: at the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas and took them down to the planet of Rasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form of Hayagrīva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Please repeat. At the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas, and took them down to the planet of Rasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form of Hayagrīva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Purport. Although Vedic knowledge is imperishable, within this material world it is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. When the people of this material world become too absorbed in ignorance, the Vedic knowledge disappears. Lord Hayagrīva or Lord Matsya, however, always protects the Vedic knowledge, and in due course of time it is again distributed through the medium of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the trustworthy representative of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, when he again asked for the treasure of Vedic knowledge, the Lord fulfilled his desire. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here Lord Hayagrīva mission is described. I actually do not know the full details of the Hayagriva's pastimes. Nirturanga Vigraha. Turanga means horse. Vedan Yugante Tamasa Tiraskratan. So, Tamasa, this material world, is tamas, ignorance, and there are different layers of ignorance. I think Prabhu showed this once. I think it's 3:18:20, right? No. Hmm. 3:28. Is this the one? What did I just take out? It's here, no? Tamisram, Andha Tamisram. Yeah, this was 3:20:18. Sasarja Chhayaya Vidyam Pancha Parvanamagratah Tamisram Andha Tamisram Tamo Moho Mahatamaha. So these are the 5 stages of ignorance. First of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. They are 5 in number and are called Tamisra, Andha Tamisra, Tamas, Moha and Mahamoha. So this purport actually explains in detail each of these. So we'll just read this purport. The conditioned souls or living entities who come to the material world to enjoy sense gratification are covered in the beginning by 5 different conditions. So we will read those. Actually, all these descriptions, are based on this verse from the Vishnu Puran, which is quoted right at the end of the purport. These 2 verses. Huh? What 102? Adi, what chapter? 1102. Okay, we will 1102. So 1102. So we will go there. We'll just finish this. So the Vishnu Puran verses are this: Tamo viveko moha syad antah karana vibhramaha mahamohastu vigneyo gramya bhoga sukhaishana maranam hi andhatamisram tamisram krodha uchyate avidya pancha parvaisha pradurbhuta mahatmana. So this whole purport is based on this. The first condition is a covering called tamisra or anger. Constitutionally, each and every living entity has minute independence. It is misuse of that minute independence for the conditioned soul to think that he can also enjoy like the Supreme Lord, or to think, why shall I not be a free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? This forgetfulness of his constitutional position is due to anger or envy. The living entity, being eternally a part and parcel servitor of the Supreme Lord, can never, by constitution, be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. When he forgets this, however, and tries to be one with him, his condition is called tamisra. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this tamisra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of tamisra continues. Andha tamisra involves considering death to be the ultimate end. The atheists generally think that the body is the self and that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus, they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. Their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. You must eat sumptuously, beg, borrow, and steal, and if you think that by stealing and borrowing you are being entangled in sinful activities for which you will have to pay, then just forget that misconception, because after death everything is finished. So this is based on that what verse? No? Yes. Charvak Muni. Rinam kritva ghritam pibet yavan jivet sukham jivet. What is that? Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya kutah punaragamano bhavet. So that is the verse. Charvak Muni. No one is responsible for anything he does during his life. So that's his philosophy. And all modern atheists who do not believe in reincarnation, they think like this. This atheistic conception of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. Because the whole point of human civilization is to prepare for the next life. In fact, to stop next life and go back to Vaikuntha. But if I don't even have this understanding, then the whole human life is just be an animal life. Because animals just eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and that's their whole life. They have no idea of anything else. So that's why this is a killer of human civilization. This andha tamisra ignorance is due to tamas, which is the next condition. The condition of not knowing anything about the spirit soul is called tamas. This material world is also generally called tamas because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as soul. Probably even more than 99. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body. He has no information of the spirit soul. Guided by this misconception, one always thinks, this is my body and anything in relationship with this body is mine. For such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of material existence. Actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life. And as soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called home, motherland, children, wealth, and opulence. As these attachments increase, moha, or the illusion of the bodily concept of life, also increases. Thus, the idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases. And as the whole world is put into moha, sectarian societies, families, and nationalities are created, and they fight with one another. Mahamoha means to be mad after material enjoyment. Especially in this age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. These definitions are very nicely given in the Vishnu Purana. So, this is what is based on. So, these are the 5 layers of ignorance. So, Vedan, what is that today? 5:18:6. Vedan Yugante Tamasa Tiraskritan. Yugante, at the end of the millennium, at the end of the Manvantaras, usually it's the end of the Kali Yuga. Manvantaras also, 71 cycles there will be. And after that there will be this Kali Yuga at the end. And usually any Kali Yuga also, it is very full of tamas, ignorance. So Vedan Yugante Tamasa Tiraskritan. So there was actually a demon who was ignorance personified. Now, in this world also we will find many such leaders of society who are ignorance personified. And the whole system is going on, the education. In the name of education, ignorance is propagated. So we will go to that verse which Prabhu was quoting, Adi 102. E Chandra Surya Dui Parama Sadaya Jagater Bhagya Gode Korila Uday. So actually this is based on the second verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanandau Sahoditau Gaudodaye Pushpavantau Chitrau Shandau Tamonudau. Actually we will go there. This is the explanation of Adi 1.2. See? This is the respectful obeisances, Pranati mantra for Gauranitai. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So this dissipation of darkness, of ignorance, is being explained. So the second verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is being explained in the second part of the first chapter. So this is where it is. These two, the sun and moon, means Chaitanya and Nityananda, are very kind to the people of the world. Thus, for the good fortune of all, they have appeared on the horizon of Bengal. Purport. The celebrated ancient capital of the Sena dynasty, which was known as Gaudadesh or Gauda. Ancient capital of the Sena dynasty. It's interesting. I have no idea what the dynasty is, Sena dynasty. Known as Gaudadesh or Gauda, was situated in what is now the modern district of Maldah. Later, this capital was transferred to the ninth or central island on the western side of the Ganga at Navadvip, which is now known as Mayapur and was then called Gaudapur. Lord Chaitanya appeared there and Lord Nityananda came there and joined him from the district of Birbhum. They appeared on the horizon of Gaudadesh to spread the signs of Krishna consciousness. And it is predicted that as the sun and moon gradually move west, the movement they began 500 years ago will come to the Western civilizations by their mercy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu drive away the 5 kinds of ignorance of the conditioned souls. In the Mahabharata, Udyoga Parva, 43rd chapter, these 5 kinds of ignorance are described. They are 1. Accepting the body to be the self. 2. Making material sense gratification one's standard of enjoyment. 3. Being anxious due to material identification. 4. Lamenting. And 5. Thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya eradicate these 5 kinds of ignorance. Whatever one sees or otherwise experiences, one should know to be simply an exhibition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's energy. Everything is a manifestation of Krishna. So this is actually a very nice purport. In fact, where is that? It reminds me of this verse that the West, that Rupa and Sanatan, they purify the western parts. That part, West. Yes, I think this is the one. Adi 10.89. पश्चिमेरु लोक सब मूढ़ अनाचार ताहा प्रचारिलो दोहे भक्ति सदाचार. So Adi 10.89, it said here, the people in general on the western side of India were neither intelligent nor well behaved, but by the influence of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they were trained in devotional service and good behavior. So, this refers to, now it is Pakistan and Afghanistan actually. And in fact, the purport is very nice here. Although it is not only in Western India that people were contaminated by association with Muslims, it is a fact that the farther west one goes in India, the more he will find the people to be fallen from the Vedic culture. Until 5,000 years ago, when the entire planet was under the control of Maharaj Parikshit, the Vedic culture was current everywhere. Gradually, however, people were influenced by non-Vedic culture and they lost sight of how to behave in connection with devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami very kindly preached the Bhakti cult in Western India, and following in their footsteps, the propagators of the Chaitanya cult in the Western countries are spreading the Sankirtan movement and inculcating the principles of Vaishnava behavior, thus purifying and reforming many persons who were previously accustomed to the culture of Mlechas and Yavanas. All of our devotees in the Western countries give up their old habits of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. Of course, 500 years ago, these practices were unknown in India, at least in Eastern India. But unfortunately, at present, all of India has been victimized by these non-Vedic principles, which are sometimes even supported by the government. So, when we sing Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine, it is very significant because the sun and moon of Chaitanya Gauranitai have now graced the Western hemisphere. So that's actually a very monumental achievement, and that just shows Prabhupada's immense contribution to this movement of the Sankirtan movement. In fact, there is another verse also, Paschima, Niritir, right? That is the one. Wait. (4:25:53). This is the one. Niritir nama paschadvas taya yati pranjanaha vaishasam nama vishayam lubdhakena samanvitaha. Another gate on the western side was known as Niriti. Puranjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vaishasa, accompanied by his friend Lubdhaka. Purport. This is a reference to the rectum. So in this Puranjana story, the city of 9 gates is described, and um, this is a reference to the rectum of this is one of the gates, but also there is an allegorical reference to the west. So let's read. This is a reference to the rectum. The rectum is supposed to be situated on the western side of the eyes, nose, and ears. This gate is especially meant for death. When an ordinary living entity abandons his present body, he passes through the rectum. So different holes are there, and the body, the soul can pass through any of these in the vayu, the pranavayu. It is therefore painful. When one is called by nature to evacuate, one also experiences pain. The friend of the living entity who accompanies him through this gate is named Lubdhaka, which means greed. Due to our greed, we eat unnecessarily, and such gluttony causes pain at the time of evacuation. The conclusion is that the living entity feels well if he evacuates properly. This gate is known as Nirati, or the painful gate. So there was a reference to this. Yeah. Okay, 42552. Let's see this. Here is where Prabhupada makes on the western side. Okay, let's see the Sanskrit. Asuri nama paschadvas tayayati puranjanaha gramakam nama vishayam durmadena samanvitah. So this is actually what I wanted to show. On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Puranjana used to go to the city of Gramaka accompanied by his friend Durmada. The gate on the western side of the city was known as Asuri because it was especially meant for the Asuras. The word Asura refers to those who are interested in sense gratification, specifically in sex life, to which they are overly attracted. Thus, Puranjana, the living entity, enjoys himself to his greatest satisfaction by means of the genitals. So both are paschat, because they're down compared to the eyes and nose. So the rectum and the genitals, they are compared to the western gates. So that's why we see in the western countries, sex life is so prominent. Consequently, he used to go to the place known as Gramaka. Material sense gratification is also called Gramya, and the place where sex life is indulged in to a great extent is called Gramaka. When going to Gramaka, Puranjana used to be accompanied by his friend Durmada. The word Vishaya refers to the 4 bodily necessities of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The word Durmadena may be analyzed in this way. Dur means dushta or sinful, and mada means madness. Every living entity who is in contact with the material nature is called mada or mad. It is said, Pisachi paile jena mati channa hoy, mayagrasta jiver hoy, shei bhava udoy. Prema vivarta. When a person is haunted, he becomes practically insane. When one is in an insane condition, he speaks all kinds of nonsense. Thus, to become engaged in sense gratification, one has to accept a friend who is durmada or badly affected by the material disease. The words Asuri Nama Paschadvah are significant in another sense. The sunrise is first visible from the eastern side, the Bay of Bengal, and gradually it progresses toward the west. It is practically experienced that people in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has certified Paschimera Loka Sabha Mudha Anachar, CC Adi 1089. The more one goes to the western side, the more he will find people disinterested in spiritual life. He will find them behaving against the Vedic standards. Because of this, people living in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. In this Bhagavatam, it is confirmed Asuri Nama Paschadvaha. In other words, the population on the western side is interested in an Asuric civilization, that is, a materialistic way of life. Lord Chaitanya consequently wanted this Krishna consciousness movement to be preached on the western side of the world so that people addicted to sense gratification might be benefited by his teachings. So there was once a suggestion by one of the disciples of Prabhupada. I don't remember who it was. So they said, your name says paschatya desha tarine, your mantra. So why will not we make, because you have preached in east and west also, um, why don't we put something like the whole earth? So Prabhupada said, keep it as paschatya, because my Guru Maharaj asked me to go to the western countries to preach. So since I attempted this to fulfill the order of my spiritual master, so let it remain like that. So he did not want that full planet, or he preached in the full planet. So this is both his humility and also of great prophetic significance and very deep significance. So humility, because he did not want that recognition of whole world, because my Guru Maharaj asked me to preach Western countries, and so I just try to fulfill that order, and let it be that I followed my order of my Guru Maharaj. So that's the proper disciple. So he wanted just that. And also his humility that he preached in the West. But then here, these two verses, Adi 1089 and 4:25:52, show the special significance of that Western reference, where the sun sets, and the Western side are more asuric compared to the Eastern. So in that asuric civilization, he preached Krishna consciousness, and that is very significant. And now this Western influence has taken over all of the world with the onset of social media and also film industry, the Hollywood. It's all propaganda basically. In the name of entertainment, people actually do not even realize that they are being fed propaganda. In fact, it is a fact, you can even check this on the Wikipedia, that the Pentagon, which is the defense headquarters of the United States, has quite a hefty budget for sponsoring Hollywood films. Do you know? They have, so all these military movies that we see from the West, from the America, like Black Hawk Down, Top Gun, all these movies are sponsored by the Pentagon. So they want that, and what is Hollywood? It's all degenerate culture. It's basically a dismantling of any culture that is there. And that has, in the name of entertainment, easy to penetrate countries which otherwise were orthodox, especially in the East. India, even Chinese, they were more orthodox. But now with this introduction of Western civilization, culture, it has become very loose. Sex life is easily promoted. So in this way, it is very full of sense gratification, very overtly sense gratifying tendencies. So this tamas, ignorance, is the feature of this material world, and Krishna also referred to this in the Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sa kale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. So sa kale neha mahata yogo nashtah parantapa. He said, before this, he said, imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshvakave bravit. So he spoke to the sun god and it was coming down in parampara. But in the course of time, it was lost. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So when Hayagrīva recovered the Vedas, it is not that, some books were stolen and then he brought back the books. Although sometimes pictorially it is depicted like that. Brahma does not need any books. Demigods don't need books. Their memories are extraordinary. They can remember millions of shlokas. In fact, the whole of Yajurveda, which is considered to be of 1 billion verses, which is the entire, in this planet, we know it as many Puranas, many Vedas, 4 Vedas and many Upanishads. But this entire thing is known as just Yajurveda in the heavenly planets, and just 1 billion verses. It can be expanded unlimitedly actually. But all of that is memorized by the inhabitants of the higher planets. As it is said, when our mastak is incapable of keeping this information, then we have to put it in pustak. So when a mind cannot hold these things, then books are the next. So in Kali Yuga especially, Vyasadeva, he wrote for the benefit of the people, the Vedic literature. So the supreme science, Krishna says in this verse, was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of the time, the succession was broken. What is the meaning of succession being broken? And therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Yeah. So, the definition of a broken succession is when the knowledge, Krishna consciousness knowledge is lost. The ISKCON, this is where they fail to understand. They always proclaim that we, so-called, they say Ritvik-vadis, we, advocate for the breaking of the parampara. That we stop it at Prabhupada. And there's no parampara after that. But parampara means the yoga nashta hasn't happened yet. The books of Prabhupada are there. And they are preaching still. So where is the destruction of the yoga? Unless books are no more there, nothing is left. Then we can say there is a distortion. But distortion can happen even when the books are there. When they are misinterpreted, mistaught. When we use the scripture for an ulterior motive. Like what they are doing in ISKCON. So this is how tamas comes. Tamasa. Ignorance. In the name of knowledge it comes. It does not come as ignorance. Here I am. No, it comes as knowledge. And slowly the deviation, without imperceptible deviation happens. There is a story in the West. I think it's a philosophical story. But it's like this. Let me remember. Yeah. So 2 women, one is lie and one is truth. So the lie, if I remember it correctly, the lie has chased the truth away, and the truth, fell into the well. Then the lie, in the name of saving the truth, took the clothes of the truth, and the truth, the woman called truth, was was inside the well naked. She couldn't come out. And then the lie put on the dress of the truth and went in the society, and people thought that was the truth because that's the dress of the truth. Yeah, this must be the truth. And naked truth in the well could not come out because, and when she tried to come out, people shamed her. Oh, you're naked. So she went back into the well, tried to hide, and there, like that, the truth was hidden. The lie came in the name of the truth. There's like a story like this, an allegorical story. So this is actually very pertinent, that falsity comes in the name of truth. It does not come as falsity. Here I am, falsity, accept me. Of course, nobody will accept. People want to accept truth. So when falsity comes as in the guise of truth, that's when the real problem actually starts, because people cannot recognize. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote an article called Putana. He explained very nicely. He said, Kamsa used to send these demons, right, to kill Krishna. So the first demon he sent was Putana. So Kamsa, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, is the typical empiricist, the impersonalist, who always wants to kill Krishna. Oh, Krishna is not a person. Always tries to explain or establish that Krishna is not a person. He wants to kill the personal aspect of Krishna. So that is Kamsa. And he will have his agents. So Putana was one such agent who wanted to kill Krishna. So the Putana is represented today by, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in that article, by the so-called religious preachers. So-called religious preachers who don the clothes of a religious person, but they preach against the religion. Why it is compared to Putana? Because Putana came to apparently serve Krishna, offer her breast milk. But what happened? She actually wanted to kill Krishna with that poison smeared on her breast. So, in the name of serving Krishna, she wanted to kill him. So these people, they pseudo-religionists, they come as if they are serving the mission of the Lord, which is Dharma Samsthapana Arthaya. Dharma Samsthapana. But their mission is to actually kill Dharma, kill the personal aspect and kill the devotional service. Because if there is no personal God, then there is no service to him. So it's all impersonal. So that is killing. So, beautifully he said that when Putana tried to kill, Kamsa was not sure where Krishna was. Kamsa was not sure where Krishna was. So he asked Putana to kill every child who was born. So anything that looks like a personal form of religion, these people, these pseudo-religionists, they want to kill it. So then Krishna killed. So that he attributed it to, when Krishna killed, that's when Kamsa knew exactly where Krishna was. Until then he did not know. When Krishna killed Putana, then he knew, this is my death. Here is where. So every demon after that was sent to the same place. He did not say kill all the, no, he killed that boy there. He was very sure this is Krishna now. Targeted attack. Until then it was just spread out attack. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, when the personality of Krishna made his presence felt by killing Putana, then that was the concrete moment at which the personality of Krishna was felt in this world. Because when Krishna was born, he was out of deception. He left the jail. He made everybody sleep, and gates were opened, and a river parted, and then Vasudeva. So it was all in the darkness of the night. So his personality wasn't apparent until then, wasn't visible or known. Where he was, how he was, what he was, nobody knew except for Vasudeva and Devaki. And he was hiding. He was in hiding, incognito. Then people came to know him when he first killed Putana. Kamsa came to know him. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, similarly, the preacher should vehemently proclaim the personality of Krishna. He should not preach hiding. He should boldly proclaim that Krishna is a person and we must surrender to him like this. And we should kill the Putanas of this world. By such preaching, he should kill the Putanas. That means he should completely attack this bogus philosophies, pseudo-religionists whose only desire is to kill Krishna. You should very strongly preach against them. So he said the defeat of these pseudo-religionists is the first sign of the advent of the absolute truth in this world. Very beautifully he explained, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So therefore, strong preaching is required. Strong preaching is required so that the putanas are exposed. And after that, it will not be finished. Once the strong preaching starts, then there will be so many attacks, like, Trinavarta, Shakatasura, and then there is all these other, what is that? Bakasura, Aghasura, who's that? Arishtasura. All these asuras came. So there will be a lot of attack. Eventually, Krishna went and killed Kamsa and finished it all. Of course, after that, so many fights happened. But you see, so a preacher's life will be met with so many challenges. The other side of it is, if a preacher is experiencing challenges, a lot of opposition, that means he's actually preaching. Because if he has no opposition, if he's having a free ride, free sale going on, that means he's not actually preaching vehemently. He is not strong enough in the preaching. Because if one strongly preaches, asuras will get upset. If asuras are not getting upset, that means you're not preaching. Asuras must get upset. Otherwise, we are doing their bidding. We are working for them actually. If asuras are not upset, if asuras are very pleased, who are asuras? Non-devotees. If we please them, that's why we should never be what is that? We should not be pleasing the world in the name of preaching. Prabhupada said we should not accommodate our philosophy to suit them. They should accommodate themselves to suit our philosophy. They should change to accommodate our philosophy. So that is required. So our preaching should not waver. The message should be every time strongly presented. It has become quite a trend in ISKCON to preach indirectly, using words. One so-called brahmachari is there in ISKCON. He posts sometimes. You cannot understand whether he's talking about Krishna consciousness or anything. Then in the comments, people say, "Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for this." They are saying Krishna. He did not say in the post. It has become a trend to use, some words, indirect words, divine, or something. Not. So this is how exactly tamas enters in the name of so-called knowledge. Ravan, when he came to kidnap Sita, same thing. In the guise of a sadhu, he came and did. So apparently that was the beginning of the so-called sadhus, pseudo-sadhus. They will dress like sannyasis or be known as some renunciants, but they're actually sense gratifiers. Their business is to take away Krishna's energy and enjoy themselves. So unless we are very sharp with our judgment about what is actually dharma and what is adharma, we will be victimized by tamas. So Vedan, what is that? Yugante tamasa tiraskratan rasataladyo nirturanga vigraha. So he came as Narsimha and Nirturanga. So Nirturanga, Turanga is horse, half man, half horse. So from Rasatala, he brought the Vedas back. So what is that? So I do not know the full details. I actually need to see what is the details of this. Maybe there are other places which is mentioned here. The details are mentioned probably. But we can see that when there is some knowledge and it is taken by demons, when it is in the hand of demons, it becomes very dangerous. Manina bhushita sarpa, what is that? Kimasau na bhayankara. So the snake, sarpa krura, khala krura, sarpat kruratara khalaha. The envious person and the snake both are dangerous. Both are, cruel. But sarpat krurataraha khalaha. More than serpent, the envious person is more cruel. Because manina bhushita sarpa khimasauna bhayankara. Especially, this is another verse, of course. If knowledge is had by a snake-like person, a very envious person, that becomes very dangerous. Prabhupada said that the atom bomb, the nuclear weapons were invented. I mean, it takes great intelligence to create something like that. But what kind of intelligence is that? Misuse intelligence. Dushkritina. Prabhupada said Dushkritina means, Kritina means meritorious. They are meritorious in the wrong way. Because it requires a lot of brains to create a nuclear bomb. But that brain, the effect is dangerous. So, the Rasatalad, so in the lower planetary systems, apparently, there are greatly intelligent creatures. In fact, Rasatal is a place of, Nagaloka is there, where serpents with jewels on their heads are there. And such kind of people who are jewel decorated snakes, they misuse. In fact, in the lower planetary systems, there is unrestricted sense gratification with all these technological advancements and everything. So knowledge, Vedic knowledge, when it goes to them, it becomes like that. It becomes dangerous. So Hayagrīva saved it from them and then brought it back, the real knowledge, to the inhabitants of the earth and the heavenly planets. Brahma, he handed it over to Brahma. Vai kavaye abhiyachate. Adi kavaye. Brahma hridaya adi kavaye. The original kavi means what? Poet, yes, but also philosopher. A poet usually is philosophical. He thinks philosophically. So a philosopher is also called kavi. So Krishnadas Kaviraj. Of course, there is also the Kaviraj of who is the doctor, that class of people. But Kaviraj also means the king of all philosophers. So Adi Kavi means the original philosopher in this universe is Lord Brahma. So he brought it back to Brahma. So Brahma again brought forth the parampara system, and the knowledge again came back into the society. So Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that the knowledge is eternal, but it is sometimes manifest and sometimes non-manifest in this material world. Yogo nashta parantapa sakale neha mahata. So this sakale neha mahata, by influence of time, means all these people who do not follow the order of the spiritual master, and then they deviate bit by bit by bit until it is totally unrecognizable. There's also, actually, I was reading in the Tattva Sandarbha as well, that Bhagavatam, the definition of Bhagavatam is mentioned as one of the definitions, one of the references of Bhagavatam is that Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya, yes, Grantho Ashtadasha Sahasro Dvadasha Skandha Sammitah Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya Yatra Vritra Vadhas Tatha Gayatriya Cha Samarambhas Tadvai Bhagavatam Viduhu. So the source is not mentioned. It is just said in the Puranas. So the meaning is, the scripture has 18,000 verses. It's actually defining Bhagavatam. What is Bhagavatam? The scripture has 18,000 verses and 12 volumes, 12 cantos. In it, there is Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya and the killing of Vritrasura. It begins with the Gayatri mantra. This is known as Bhagavatam. But this Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya, so I wanted to know what it was. Apparently, it is called Ashvashira. It is the Dadhichi. So the reference is there. It's a little bit tangential to today's class, but because it's Ashvashira, Hayagrīva. So Sava Adhikato Dadhyan Ashvibhyam Brahmanishkalam Yadva Ashvashiro Nama Tayor Amaratam Vyadhat. That saintly Dadhyancha, who is also known as Dadhichi, personally assimilated the spiritual science and then delivered it to the Ashwini Kumaras. It is said that Dadhyancha gave them mantras through the head of a horse. Therefore, the mantras are called Ashvashira. Ashva means horse, Shira means head. Therefore, the mantras are called Ashvashira. After obtaining the mantras of spiritual science from Dadhichi, the Ashwini Kumaras became Jivan Mukta, liberated even in this life. So the purport explains this. The following story is narrated by many acharyas in their commentaries. It's very long Sanskrit, so I'll just skip it for time, sake of brevity. The great saint Dadhichi had perfect knowledge of how to perform fruitive activities, and he had advanced spiritual knowledge as well. Knowing this, the Ashwini Kumaras once approached him and begged him to instruct them in spiritual science, Brahma Vidya. Dadhichi Muni replied, I am now engaged in arranging sacrifices for fruitive activities. Come back sometime later. When the Ashwini Kumaras left, Indra, the king of heaven, approached Dadhichi and said, My dear Muni, the Ashwini Kumaras are only physicians. Please do not instruct them in spiritual science. If you impart the spiritual science to them, despite my warning, I shall punish you by cutting off your head. Okay. Kind of envious person, you see. Indra. After warning Dadhichi in this way, Indra returned to heaven. The Ashwini Kumaras, who understood Indra's desires, returned and begged Dadhichi for Brahma Vidya. When the great saint Dadhichi informed them of Indra's threat, the Ashwini Kumaras replied, because they were physicians, right? They know how to restore health. So they said, let us first cut off your head and replace it with the head of a horse. You can instruct Brahma Vidya through the horse's head, and when Indra returns and cuts off that head, we shall reward you and restore your original head. Since Dadhichi had promised to impart Brahma Vidya to the Ashwini Kumaras, he agreed to their proposal. Therefore, because Dadhichi imparted Brahma Vidya through the mouth of a horse, this Brahma Vidya is also known as Ashvashira. So apparently, Bhagavatam is referred to by this and the Vritrasura Vadha, the killing of Vritrasura. Maybe because this is not mentioned in any other Puran, maybe, I don't know. Because that's how the Bhagavatam is identified. Some of the identification markers of Bhagavatam are 18,000 verses, 12 cantos, Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya. Actually, this Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya is the Narayana Kavacha. Narayana Kavacha is the Ashvashira. And then Vritrasura Vadha. So these are some of the markers of. Yes. So this is actually connected. This Hayagrīva Brahma Vidya and Vritrasura Vadha is connected. So in this way, Bhagavatam is identified. I think there was something I found interesting. Um, 2:7:11, I think. Okay. Just for the reference of Hayagrīva, 2:7:11. Satre mamasa bhagavan hayashira shatho sakshat sayagnya purushastapaniya varnah chando mayo makhamayo khila devatatma vacho babhuvurushati shvasatosya nastah. The Lord appeared as the Hayagrīva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well and the super soul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. So this was how Hayagrīva. So the horse makes a meaningless sound out of the nostrils, but the Hayagrīva, he breathed the Vedic sound. Just like it is said, the Garuda's wings also, the sound of the Garuda's wings is actually Vedic hymns, not simply some Vedic hymns. The Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed for fruitive workers. Okay, so this is basically about fruitive thing that Prabhupada is explaining here. But the Lord is a personified sacrifice and personified Vedic hymns. Therefore, one who is directly a devotee of the Lord is a person who has automatically both served the purposes of sacrifices and pleased the demigods. The devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per Vedic injunctions, and still the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers or the worshippers of different demigods. So there is one reference to Hayagrīva. One of his pastimes in Brahma. Apparently, I don't know. I think here whether this appearance in the sacrifice of Brahma is connected to the Rasatala's thing. I do not know. I do not know the full story of this. And he also killed the demons Madhu and Kaitabha. That's another thing that he did. So I don't have a full idea of this pastimes of Hayagrīva. So all right, I'll stop it here then. If there are any comments or questions. Yeah. Mario saying this is very interesting because as Catholics we normally think of the East as sexy giants of magic, but mostly because of what Jewish history tells us of the Middle East. Well, Middle East is still West. They call it the Middle East, but actually it is still in the Western Asia. And apparently, when Muhammad came, they were the horrible culture, all the Arabs. Arabs were just a condemned lot of people. And to save them, he preached that religion. But, they were absolute condemned lot at that time. Simply fighting and killing each other, that's all was going on. Like animals, they were killing each other. But they are, so East, according to, like, the Chinese call themselves Chongguo. Chongguo means the center country. They think they are the center of the world. The way they write also, because it's all pictorial, right? Chinese Chongguo is written as like one rectangle and one line signifying center. They are the center of the world. Anything eastern to them is east, western to them is west. So they consider like that. But Vedic culture actually refers to our Bharata, present India, as the eastern side, eastmost of. So, yeah. And also, the Abrahamic religions, they have whitewashed all the culture that was previously existing in those lands. I was surprised to see one video long back, last year maybe, that North American tribal people, they actually believe in the four yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and the seasons of religious decline. They know this very well. They believe in that, and they also know that the Kalki, the God, there's a personality will come on the horse and revive the yuga again. These things they know, apparently. So you see, the traces of culture can be found everywhere. But when these Abrahamic religions came, Christianity and Islam, wherever they went, they completely tried to erase the previously existing cultures there. Like this part of the world, unfortunately, they could not completely erase. The nomenclature is still intact, although the culture is gone. Like Garuda Airlines and all this Ramayana and Samudra Manthan and all this is very well known in this part of the world. The churning of the ocean. But it is just as relegated to a mythical tale or something like this. But as religion, it does not have the mainstay. So it was whitewashed. They tried to do that even in India. They burned all the books. Many Takshashila University, which was now in Pakistan actually, that's gone. And the other one, which is at what is that place? What is the other? Nalanda. Now that place is called Bakhtiyarpur. That town is called Bakhtiyarpur. Bakhtiyar Khilji, the Muslim ruler who burned that Nalanda University, and the town is called under his name, and still it is like that. This is our so-called. So that it burned for months. How much literature is gone? How much of all these missing shlokas? Sometimes we cannot find them. Maybe they could have been easily found. But at least, even Jiva Goswami refers to Madhvacharya's Bhagavat Tattvavit Nirnaya commentary on the Bhagavat in the Tattvasandarbha there. He admits that some of the evidence I personally saw it, some of them I did not see it, but I'm taking it from Madhvacharya's commentary on the Bhagavatam. So already the original sources were lost, but he was taking it on the authority of Madhvacharya. So you see, so like that, there is always an attack on the religion, and this is, you see, nobody can really attack a person who is completely spiritual, because ahaitukya apratihata. How can they come, these Mughals, who invaded India or any other part of the world? How can they come and erase the history unless the decline, the rot already started within? So that was actually the case. The Brahmanas started the rot with with the Shringi who cursed Parikshit Maharaj. Then began the decline of the Brahmanas. And at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth, Advaita Acharya's description of the civilization in India was horrible. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat second chapter, Adi Khanda, they were completely immersed in sense gratification, and Vedas were just a namesake only. We can see this in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where the Brahmanas colluded with the Muslim rulers to stop Sankirtan movement of. Even Tukaram faced the same thing in the West, Maharashtra. The Brahmanas themselves, they went against Tukaram because the Smartas, they did not like this bhakti. So the rot actually started here. So because of that, the Lord is not satisfied, because they mock, they harass the devotees. Even in the south, the Cholas, who were Shaivites, very staunch Shaivites, they harassed the Ramanujacharya's disciple. They took their eyes out. Who was that person whose eyes? Kuresha. His eyes were plucked out by the Shaivites. That was happening in the south as well. So although Cholas were known as this, very innovative and economically very strong, they were, but their decline came when they attacked the Vaishnavas. Very vehemently they were fighting with Vaishnavas and killing so many Vaishnavas. So we always try to say, oh, we have to, especially in India, Hindutva, they say, oh, we Hindus must unite and fight against this Muslim. All these are nonsense, because this is not going to save. As long as we consider ourselves Hindu, Muslim, or any this sectarian religion nomenclature, if we have, there's no religion there. We have to understand that it is actually, unless we rise, unless we transcend this and understand that we are actually spirit, soul, and how Krishna consciousness is the real religion that encompasses and harmonizes every other religion on earth, only then can all this be solved, really. Until then, one sectarianism and to fight that another sectarianism. That is not going to help. So actually there can be no unity among the Hindus, so-called Hindus today. There cannot be. I actually wanted to make a short on that, YouTube short. Because if you see Ramayana and Mahabharata, Ram and Ravan, Ram is Vishnu, Ravan is worshipper of Shiva. They were not Hindu, Muslims or Christian and Buddhists and Jews, and none of them were there. It all comes under the definition of today's Hindu. Ravan also was Hindu. Why Ram killed him? In that sense, Mahabharata, Kauravas also were Hindus only. Arjuna also was Hindu, if you want to define him like that. Why there was fight? Fight will be there between Daiva and Asura. It is not about Hindu, Muslim or Christianity, all these things. And who is Asura? Who is against the principles of God consciousness, against obedience of God. So that is tamas, that is ignorance. So there is always this fight between knowledge and ignorance. They say, oh, Deepavali means good over evil. Dashara means good over evil. Navaratri means good over evil. This is Hindus' definition of their festivals. Good over evil. A victory of good over evil. Always is trite caption they will come up with. So they don't know what is good and what is evil. They accept evil for good and good for evil. When we say Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, they say, how can you say like this? You are, you are just like Abrahamic religions. You are saying one God. They also say one God. You are like Muslims. Hinduism is many gods. This is the problem with these people. Nobody is understanding actually what religion really is. Okay, so I will stop it here. Any other comments or questions? No? ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद, हरि Hare Krishna. So fast you came? I thought one more week. You went for 2 weeks? No, right?